Now, I do want to explain my kind of interpretation of this ending and also talk a little bit about Kendall's character and the way this all makes sense. So, first off, what a journey they took for Kendall's character this season. And for those that doubted if Kendall was the main character in this show, which I have believed even since, halfway through season 1, I think Kendall is the main character in this. I think Logan maybe gets more screen time or something like that, or maybe about the same. But I think Kendall is, because think about where he started in this season and how much attention, how much focus we've paid to his character and following him in this arc throughout the season. I don't think any other character has had an arc as big or as significant as his throughout this season. And so again, think about where he started in this one, how vulnerable he was, just going along with his dad's every call. Again, in that interview, reading essentially word for word what Logan wanted him to say, right? Basically just going with whatever he said. And now he completely buries him, right? And defies his ultimate request and does exactly the opposite of what Logan wants him to say. Again, and it just makes so much sense. It's not just the fact of like, oh, just wow, awe factor, right? It's shocking, Kendall suddenly does. It's not sudden though, really, right? It really is a great journey throughout this season, and it makes a lot of sense. Just a logistical development here for the character. Such a great parallel, again, between how the season started with Kendall doing that interview and Logan watching, to the same thing happening here, but with very different stakes and a completely different outcome. And I said this before, but it really is just amazing, just from a visual standpoint of how similar this looks. It just really is great. And I think this speaks to the great writing, obviously, but also Jeremy Strong's performance. I think this is an Emmy-worthy performance this season given by Jeremy Strong. I think if he doesn't get nominated, I'm going to be super mad. He deserves this nomination. I'm not sure if they'd nominate him for supporting or lead. Either way, he's got to be in there in the Emmy consideration next year. This was an amazing performance, if not only just this episode. I mean, let's be honest, right? So, and the rap at episode 8, like, come on. Anyways, so Kendall makes that last decision. Okay, so this is me kind of explaining my thoughts on it. So, Kendall makes that last decision because of the line where he asked Logan if he thought he could ever do the CEO job, right? And Logan says that he's not a killer. That's the one thing missing that makes him not kind of able or kind of kills his chances of becoming the CEO. But this act here is a perfect example to Logan that he really is a killer, right? And probably the only example so far, but it's the ultimate example. It is him being a killer, him taking down his dad, even though it's like completely against anything that Logan has ever taught him or told him. He is willing to take down his dad in order to save his own life in a way, right? And this is really killer. So again, all in all, I think this was the ultimate test that Logan gave to Kendall. In that Logan knew that the only way of swaying the shareholders and keeping the company in the family's name once and for all, like the truly only way for that to actually happen, was him to go down in flames. It really was. And even at the very beginning of this episode, we set it up that the big shareholder says, Francois or whatever calls him and says, it's got to be you. You have got to be the one that steps down and takes this, takes the meat of this, right? He has to be the one that is sacrificed. And I think Logan knows this. He gives this test to Kendall and says, well, you're not a killer. You're never going to get this job because you're not a killer. And then tells him to sacrifice himself. Well, what is Kendall going to do to prove that he's a killer? He's going to take down Logan. And so I really think, yeah, you could talk about, Kendall just made this huge move. But again, I think it's controlled by Logan. And I'm not sure Kendall even realizes this. Kendall doing this makes Logan going down in flames a reality, but it also shows that Kendall is finally ready to take over. He's finally taken that final step in order to now be the new CEO, take on Logan's role. And that's why Logan smiles at the end of this scene, because he finally sees what he's wanted to see in Kendall for years. And now he knows that the company is in good hands with Kendall running it and him stepping down. He finally knows that Kendall is ready and that he is a killer at this point. And I think it really is him being proud or impressed by Kendall in this thing. I think he's legitimately proud of Kendall at this time. And finally seeing him in this light that he's wanted to see him in all these years of him working in the business and trying to get him ready for this role, he's finally ready. And so Logan is now willing to basically abdicate his throne, if you will, and give Kendall that chance at running the company. So I will say, though, for an optics sake, I don't think Logan is going to make his feelings about this public. I don't think he's going to go out there and tell everybody that he's impressed or that he's, proud of Kendall or anything. I don't think that's going to happen. I think there's probably going to be somewhat of a fight, somewhat of a conflict here with Logan. I don't think he's going to go down easy in season 3. But the way this ends and the way that this shows Logan's true reaction to this and his smile, I think just speaks volumes. And it's such good writing here. We see Logan is always in control. Always in control. I mean, nothing really happens in this that he doesn't control or that he doesn't end up spinning his way and getting his way. And I think this is not an exception. I think this was a test for Logan, not even knowing. Kendall probably didn't even know that. But it was a test, posed to Kendall here, and Logan saying, okay, you're not a killer, and you got to go sacrifice yourself now. So Kendall, what does he do to prove that he's a killer and prove that he can do the job? He takes down his own dad. And it just, again, it's just an awesome, awesome moment. And Logan knows, if he would have picked Tom to do this, Tom would have just sacrificed himself. He would have never done what Kendall did. And so it's just such an amazing, amazing writing, written beat here, and the way that they end this season off and resolve this Logan and Kendall dynamic in this season, just flawless. So an amazing job at ending this one. Again, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. Maybe you guys have a different view on how this went down, but either way, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that for sure.